What's up, folks? Sean the Average Angler back in action after helping my mom again. Thanks to my buddy Kevin for helping out. That was a huge help. But we just worked way too much, guys. It was just one of those things. That's what it required. We got out to fish one night for about an hour. That was it. Had offers from people to take us out, but the decision had to be made basically to eat or go fish. And so one meal a day, we were going to go eat. So moving on, if you're new to the channel, you like this kind of content, be sure and hit that subscribe button. We are doing a giveaway when we hit that magic 4,000 number. We are going to give away a GrowWorks Flag 170. Could be this one right here in the rainbow trout. Or an assortment of other colors. I will give the winner that option. What are we going to talk about? So I thought we would start a little summer series of where to find bass, how to catch in those areas, and that sort of thing. And I thought we'd kick it off with one of my favorites this time of year. Now, I don't have a lot of lakes to do this at. Clear Lake kind of is the one that comes to mind, and that's kind of about it in my area. Now, there are some lakes that have some things. We'll get into that we can talk about. But Clear Lake is unique in that it is one of our few lakes that has docks around the lake. So there it is. We are going to talk about summertime dock fishing. When, how, and why. Now, maybe the when and why kind of go together. It's kind of self-explanatory. You can dock fish anytime you want, really. So we're going to cover the best time to dock fish. And to me, the best time to dock fish is when the sun gets high. And then they want to use the dock shade for cover to shade their eyes. Remember, bass don't have eyelids. So they do a few things to shade themselves from the bright sun, and shady areas like docks, overhanging trees, could be getting on one side of a rock versus the other. Grass. So today we are going to talk about docks. So we've already covered high sun's the time. So don't necessarily, and I'm not saying it doesn't work because it does, but the highest percentage time is with high sun, and you're forcing those fish to get into the shade pocket. So you know where they are. They're in the shade pocket of the dock. Now keep in mind that pocket moves as the sun moves across the horizon. That shade moves based on the dock angle. Now, one of my favorite ways to get them is skipping a bait under them. This is typically going to be your lower lying docks laying on the water docks, or throwing up under boats moored on pontoon lifts. Now, my favorite for that is that Flag 170. I don't know a bait that skips near as well as this bait does. It is just a phenomenal skipper. And the only downside to it is you have that treble hook hanging out. And I recently lost one on a pontoon, on a boat hoist. Way up on the pontoon. I couldn't get to it and had to break it off. That's the downside. Now, you don't necessarily have to pitch right at the edges of those. However, when you're skipping, sometimes something will cause it to skip off to the side depending on how it lands. But there are other ways to fish it. There are other baits to skip. So that flag is a phenomenal bait to throw up under a dock. Now another one would be a buzzbait with either a toad, or you could also use a swim bait, something like a Kitech. Oh, where the hell are they? Oh, the Crush City Mare. So swim baits, you could also use craw bait, something like if you want a small bait, you go with a Phat Pak Beastie Bug Jr. You can throw a pocket craw. You can throw a grub. Now, one of the grubs that I really like is the Z-Man. I think it's called the Z Streak. Streak Z, Curly Tail Z. Okay, a little bigger body, kind of a swim bait style body, but then with that curl tail. That can be a real good one as well. That one buzzbait I showed you, this one, I don't remember the name. I'm going to see if I can find it on Tackle Warehouse and link it to you. But it has a twist lock. The other one is this here, and this is from Brazalo Custom Lures. Now, I got a couple different ones. I think I showed you these recently, but this is another good one because your bait slips on over the lead and that'll hold it in place. If you really want to, you can glue it, but I've found that these hold pretty darn well. Okay, this bait skips really, really well. It also makes a ton of noise. Okay, this was a recent winner on the Elite Series on the Sabine River. Great buzzbait. I will link it in the description as well. So a buzzbait is probably going to be my second choice for wanting to skip and cast around docks. Now, we always have the frog. We've been talking frog fishing. I've got a ton of them here. This Swamp Lord Pompin frog is one of my favorites, and this one happens to be a really good color. This is called honey shad. So it kind of gives you a golden top, shad side and bottom, and you have the unique sound of the popping frog. Now, what I really like about these is they walk extremely well. They skip pretty well if you cast them low to the water. So you can pop it, or you can walk it, or you can kind of do a combination of both. Very universal. It's easily my favorite frog right now is that Berkeley Swamp Lord in the poppin' version. They also are the only company I know that offers a frog in bone. I did see a smaller company when I was looking. I don't remember what it was. Proto something or other, I think, had a bone color. And I have to question why, because when it comes to a walking bait, bone is something we all use. It's something we all say, if you're only going to have one, get bone. Yet most frogs come in these white colors. Now this one is sort of a tweener between this white and between that bone. So maybe that's a little different. However, these are the same company. And I wish I still had the packaging because I don't think neither one of them were called bone. Some other baits we can skip up under docks. Chatterbait, swim jig. I think I would tend to venture towards a swim jig over the chatterbait just because it does skip a little better, at least for me it does. And in that case, I really like this. And I know everybody likes what they like. I like the Secret Lures swim jigs. I get these off of lureparts.com, and then I'll pair it with a appropriate color Phat Pak Beastie Bug Jr. and go to town. So the swim jig is really good because you can fish it throughout the water column. You can get it down deeper just by letting it sink. You can use the lighter one, cast it out there, swim it near the top. And that Beastie Bug Jr. just puts a lot of kicking action into it. A lot of guys like to use a swim bait on their swim jigs. I'm still a craw type guy. Again, personal preference. And one tends to work better than the other. So sometimes you need to try them both, see which one they want. So that is the skipping aspect of docks for me. Now, some other things I may do is throw... Look, you guys told me the Teckle Kick Knocker was the Reaction Innovations Vixen, so I bought one. This is this is really a fantastic color for clear water. You guys see how transparent that is. This one is called Phantasmo Shad, and I'm actually really looking forward to fishing this on my local lake because I've been killing them on topwater stuff there. That one might be a really good one. However, that is a walking bait that I like to throw down docks that are on the water. I'll fish it down the edge. Something about fishing that or down the edge that walking bait has a tendency to be able to pull those fish out from under the dock to eat. Now that's a really good one. We have the Shower Blow by Evergreen, which is a great one. Again, I'm keeping the colors pretty basic, right? Shad, this one's transparent, this one's not really transparent. And then I have a bone. On the lower price scale, same type of bait. Or if you need something a little smaller, there's the Cane Walker by Berkeley, which is, honestly, it's kind of one of my favorites. The price is right, they've got great colors. This one's called a CJ Shad. There's your bone. Perfect Ghost. And that's about what I carry as far as colors go. But the walking bait can be fished quickly. It can be fished slow and pause. There's so much you can do with a walking bait. Really, it's about finding the proper cadence that the fish want that day. And it's one of those baits that will pull fish out from the dock to eat. And a lot of times that's the problem with the dock that's laying on the water. It's difficult to get it out. So you need to learn to skip. And you need to learn lures that are effective at pulling fish a distance. Now the other one that I already mentioned for skipping under docks was that flag. That flag has an immense pulling power to pull fish out. Moving on from the floating docks, or the docks laying on the water, is our typical pier style docks. They have their own advantages. Okay, they have some drawing power, especially wood pilings I tend to like. They get moss on them, which draws in plankton. Will come in and eat the algae. The bluegill like to eat the plankton. The bait fish like to eat the plankton. And then the bass can sit there and pick them off when they are ready to feed. Now, I kind of approach my pier docks a little different. There's a few things you can do, and some of those we've already talked about. They will also work. However, I tend to like to approach those docks a little different. Now, I'll still use that walking bait. I'll just throw it up under the dock and walk it across at different angles. Now, the other thing that I found very effective at times is using a flipping bait that you can drop down the side of the piling. Drop it down the shady side. Remember, that's the idea, is the bass are trying to stay out of the bright sun, and we drop it down that shady side. We want to drop it down as close to and as straight down that piling as possible. It's just more natural. Too many people will go up and pitch around it and let it pendulum away, and those fish get tuned into that. Now, some of the other baits, I do like to use a jig under docks, especially if there's some sort of rock pile. If you just have a hard bottom and you don't have a rock pile, then that's a time when I really like to go to a Ned bait. Okay, just something Ned rig. I can use the Phat Pak baits. Either the Beastie Bug Junior if you want a cross style bait. What they call this, it's something bat, fat bat. I'll link it in the description, but you see how these move. They get that little vibration going. Anyway, they stand straight up and down on that Ned rig. It's a really good way to fish around docks, just about anywhere. One more bonus technique for fishing around docks that is probably under talked about, yet extremely effective and allows you to cover docks quickly and very effective in the summer, is a square bill. Okay, again, I'm gonna go with a shad pattern most of the time, just because it is a time where shad spawn's going on. Shad are up shallow, moving around. It's a bait that fish are feeding on, so I like to mimic that. Now, once I find an area that might be loaded with fish and I catch several off the same dock, I might pick up a red craw Here's a Mega Bass Sonic side. This is called Wild Craw OB, okay? Just a red Delta Craw is another good one. I don't have a square bill right here handy, but something like that color, the Lucky Craft, which is called Spring Craw, can be a really good one. And I use the red generally to pick off an extra fish or two. And what I've found is that red tends to produce my biggest fish out of the area. Doesn't get bit like the other one does, but for some reason it will trigger that bigger dominant female in the area to bite. And that's really what we're looking for, right? All right, there's some summertime dock fishing tips. Hope that helps you catch more fish. I'm Sean, the Average Angler. Hit that subscribe below if you're not subscribed, and we'll see you on the next one.